Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Real Time with Prince Blue, and today is February the 24th. And this is a very special episode. I say that all the time, of course. But this really is a special episode because I got one of my compadres, one of my fellow recently retirees.
Right.
21 years he spent with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department, CMPD.
Yeah.
Um, Helped make it one of the finest fighting forces um, in the country. 21 years. He just recently retired. Sergeant, my man, served this country proud, served the community proudly, did it with honor, did it with grace, did it with dignity. And that's coming from me, so it means a lot.
Yeah.
Um, my man, Sergeant, recently retired
Right.
Sergeant
Made
Jonathan
it.
Stepp.
Yeah.
What's up with you, my man?
Brother, just chilling, man. Doing that thing, sitting in a rocking chair, looking out the window, doing retired stuff. So,
Now, for those who don't know, Sergeant Stepp, his lovely wife Ann. We're going to get into it. She's so lovely. I'm going to get into what she does for us and everything that she does for the community. But I have to ask, where's your beard?
man, you know what? I was just telling somebody earlier that I let it grow out and started getting itchy. So I'd trim it up, let it grow out for a couple of weeks. So actually, I've only shaved twice, like legit using a razor over the last couple of, since I didn't have to shave anymore. So, but I, I'm trying not to look like a cop anymore, man. But I'm trying to grow my hair out, but it's not growing, so I don't have a lot of options.
Listen. We Let me tell you something. I can tell you this. You can tell a cop a mile away. First of
Okay.
all, we always, especially a white cop, because you always got your shirts tucked in. You're
Yep.
wearing your work boots. You got the high and tight. Well, you and I ain't got to worry about the high and tight because we
Yeah.
both bald as shit.
Yeah.
Um, but man, how does it feel to be retired? First of all, how does that feel?
You know what, man? It's kind of bittersweet. I hate the fact that I've left my people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're around the people you work with daily. You and I had the opportunity to work together when we were in Eastway Division, and you build that bond with the guys, and it's weird. You go into work. If you have something to bitch about, you talk to your guys. They understand what you're dealing with. They understand the hours, and then what happens is you're taken out of that. And I'm sure we've talked before, and you've had some of the same issues. You're taken out of that environment, and then it's at first it's lonely. You got your people calling in, checking in, but it's different. So there's a huge adjustment of not being involved anymore. So it's crazy. But it's a lot of people said it's like a weight being lifted off your chest. Just being retired. So thankfully, 21 years, and I've been in a couple of shootings, but still alive and in good health. So so
And a lot of people don't realize that we spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our own family. So you really build a bond with them guys, and it's hard. Like, you miss the job, but you miss them guys. You miss the guys and the ladies more than anything. You miss. I mean, these are some guys that you're in life and death situations with.
oh
So
yeah,
you build a bond that you don't get at home. Like, I mean, you know it,
yeah,
chasing down a crackhead, or wrestling with a guy that has a gun in his waist and laughing about it afterwards when either one of you possibly couldn't have made it at home. Being in a shooting, um, having to breathe life into a toddler,
sure.
driving 80 miles an hour, you go from that to mowing grass or reading a book or
It's almost
rearranging cups.
yeah, it's almost you're trying to redefine your purpose. you know, my purpose before was I put on a uniform and I go to work and catch bad guys, and I make sure my guys go home and I go home, and you're taken out of that, and then, like, you know, what are you doing now? You know, so it's tough, and you, like you said, I think the only other brotherhood that could experience is maybe the firefighters, but, you know, people in the military who work together. But, you know, if we hit a house, you know, we got to go in. There's, you know, shots being fired, or somebody's in the house. We got to go in or go to a hot call. We don't be like, you know, a lot of times you'll be like, shit, this sucks. You know, this is going to suck. You know, thinking, but you go, you know, and you know, when you go right into a room, you don't have to look left because you know the person behind you doing what they're supposed to do and going left. It's crazy. So it's a bond, like you said. It's almost like a brotherhood. You know, I've got a younger brother I'm really close with, but, you know, you're experiencing life and death situation and trauma. You know, you're seeing the trauma and terrible things, and the only, you know, you go home, you know, you can't talk to your kid or girlfriend, wife, husband. They don't understand. You just who do you confide in? You confide in other officers because they know what it's like to be in those situations or see the same things, and what a burden it is. And you really don't realize until you retire that all these things start coming back up. You start driving past places, and yeah, there was a dead dude here, or, you know, save somebody here or something, and it's pretty. You know, then you think about what we've done in our career. It's pretty amazing. You know, the things we've seen and experienced.
And we're going to get to your questions. My son had a very good question. We're going to get to that, son. We're going to get to all your questions. But I want to expound on that step because you and I share one of those bonds because
Yeah.
you and I both deal with you spoke about the mental health aspect
Sure.
of policing. And I think that's one of the most important and not talked about enough aspects of policing. You
Taboo.
you can do a million push-ups, you
Yeah.
can run fast, you can jump high, you can shoot, but mentally, if you're not mentally there at the job, you can be just as dangerous as the guy that's overweight, diabetic, any physical ailment you can think of. If you're not mentally in the job, that's worse than anything. And me personally, when one thing that I did not like about police work and the department that we left was they harped so much on physical stress that they didn't harp enough on the mental aspect of the job. Like,
Yeah.
it was always, if you weren't physically fit enough, you were unfit for duty. Then I will always ask, well, mentally, what about my mental aspect? But it
Yeah.
was always,
Absolutely.
well, you got EAP. What, EAP isn't enough.
No.
How do you feel about that?
No, 100%. And, you know, a lot that the officers have to do is prepare themselves for the realities of what we deal with in the trauma. But what are we? It's taboo to bring up. Hey, you know, I'm having issues. I'm starting to, you know, I'm having flashbacks or nightmares. You don't talk about that because they think, you know, if you do, you worry about people think you're broken and your career's over. So you just put it in the back of your head and you keep going, and be like, and you just wait for the next thing to happen, and then, you know, you focus on that traumatic event for a period of time until something else happens, maybe the next day, maybe later in the shift, and then so you experience the worst things that you can see in humanity, and then it's on the next call, you know, right? So there's no time to stop and like, well, shit, man, how do I deal with this? That what I just witnessed. This is not normal. I mean, you know as well as I do, some of the stuff is, it's like surreal. You don't realize, it's like watching a movie, you know, and you have to, the only way to survive is you have to separate mentally from reality almost to deal with it. You can't think of, you go to the next call and you can't think about that child that's dead, or the person in their car wreck, or the guy was shot and killed, or, you know, just maybe the DV victim. It doesn't have to be a death, but you know, in Charlotte, you know, we were answering the patrol guys, what probably averaging 20, 30 calls a shift. I mean, it was just back. You got calls pending when you check on, and when you 42, when you log off, and it's constant. And in the last couple of years in Eastway on the street crimes unit, we were doing high speed stuff, and then my last 5 years I was over the street crimes unit in Still Creek, and we were going after robbery suspects and shooting suspects, and constantly in doing vehicle takedowns, search warrants, and nothing prepares you for that. And it got to the point where I didn't feel normal unless I was in the red zone, right? Like level 10.
Right.
So because and after my shooting in 16, it was just like constantly replaying, and some of these other events do too. And you just have to kind of keep your mouth shut and keep going because you're worried about.
And I was going to say, for those who don't know, the red zone is when you're constantly at a height and where your adrenaline is always up. You're always at a heightened sense of what's next. Like you're always hyper vigilant. Like you can't be normal. It's like my wife will always, like when we go to a restaurant, I always have to sit to where I see the door. Like I'm always up when I'm asleep. I have to be by the door. Like it's just always, you're always tense. Your heart is never pumps normal. And it's like, I just wish I can tell y'all how it feels. It's the reason why, like, Step, how we would get an email that so-and-so congratulate so-and-so on their retirement, and then 6 months later you'll get an email, so-and-so dropped dead at the mailbox.
Oh, 100%. Sometimes not even that long. Sometimes it was
not even that long.
Yeah, they had that homicide detective, I think it was, or detective, like a week later, he retired, did 30 years, retired, and passed away. It's tragic, man. And what this job does to you mentally, lack of sleep. Think about it. How many times you get 4 or 5 hours sleep during the riots? We were both in the riots, and working 16 hours. You go home, get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. You wake up, you shower, and you do it again. It's constant. You don't get that break, and so there's no time to. And then a lot of times at work, things happen so fast that at the end of the week, you're like, my week's over, and you got a couple of days off, but you finally got a place to stop, and you're trying to process what you just dealt with for the last week. And so your first first day or two is shot, man. You're sometimes it's bad mood, sometimes you're tired, but it wears on you.
And then I want to touch on the home life, because the divorce rate for police officers is high.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's be real, it's either due to money, infidelity, alcoholism, or just due to just arguing.
And I think it's a result. You see it happened to me, it happened to you. One of the best books I read that I actually didn't read till I had a few years on, but was Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. Actually, almost verbatim described what I was going through from each stage of your career, from a rookie, going out here and save the world, and you're just gun ho, and then that change mentally. And then what happens is your family, you come home to your family and you're a different person. You're irritable, you're stressed out, you have all these negative issues sometimes. And who do you take it out on? You're around your family, because we're trained, and we stand there with a blank look on our face, and we deal with trauma, people yelling at us, people spitting on us, hate us, yell, and we just have to take it. And then you come home and all that emotions build up, and then it's not good for the family life. And if you don't understand what's happening to you, and better yet, the family, if you have a kid or wife or husband, doesn't understand emotionally what's happening in your mind, it's over. I mean, they have to understand it and be willing to accept it. So that's something they need to do prior to going in, is explain in detail what's going to happen to you. You can become cynical and you change. I'm not the same person. I always wonder, hey, what would I be like if I wasn't a cop? You know, like how much chiller would I be, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, because it changes you. It's almost you take on that identity. For a lot of people, a job's a job, but it you take on an identity. You know, it rules you 24/7. You're not like, hey, I worked 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours. I'm going home and I can do my thing. You're the departments you work for, your sheriff's department, police department, they've controlled every aspect of my life for 21 years. So,
And when you talk about controlling every aspect of your life, listen, um, we're talking about every aspect of your life down to, I mean, when social media started, CMPD developed a social media policy to where if you liked a certain status or if you tweeted something and somebody didn't like it, they found out where you worked, they reported it, you're ho hum about your day, you get called into the office, hey, you like so and so, you tweeted something about so and so political candidate, so and so doesn't like that, here's a few days off.
yeah,
And you're like,
you can't, you know, if you and your neighbor were arguing about a car or disagreement, what do? They call internal affairs. I mean, so everybody knows you're a cop. Everybody, you know, what do they always say? We pay your salary, we control you, and that's the first thing they do. And in my case, you know, I got suspended for 30 days for some social media, doing TikTok and some other stuff. And the standard they set for me was if anyone could be offended, it's against policy, which is not accurate according to policy. But I mean, that's impossible. I mean, and I was like, people are offended because we have a badge on. But they set the standard and they just have that control and their finger on you. You know, oh yeah, you're planning to go on vacation, canceled. I mean, how many times, you know, do you have plans with your family or a birthday coming up? You missed, I mean, as a cop, you miss birthdays, Christmases, holidays, you name it. And you can't.
right.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah, we can see you, Greg. And that's and I'm gonna tell you right now, that's the beauty about, because I've even said that's the beauty about being retired, because I remember I tweeted something and somebody was like, you should be ashamed, and I'm gonna let your department know how you talk. And I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No telling
And
how
let me
many.
know what they tell you.
I'm telling one of my buddies over there, like, no telling how many IA complaints I've got since I've been gone, because it feels good just to be able to speak your voice and tell people what you think. And it's just liberating. And
It's not even necessarily like you want to say something that's so out
sure.
of hand or bad. It's just that you want to be yourself. And to say that somebody may be offended, like you and I have had people legit walk up to us. We've had kids, teenagers walk up to say, my mommy and daddy told us not to like cops.
Yeah. And
You
that's
basically offend us just being a cop. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do if the very thought of the very sight of me offends you?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, because you know how many times, like you said, you see a kid and you try to reach out to them and you try to have that positive impression on them, and you know, I always say when they're 4 or 5, they take the sticker from you, and I've even had the parents say no, you know, throw them on the ground and walk off, but when they're a couple years old, they're cursing at you like F12 or whatever. I mean, it's like, you know, it's hard, man.
Especially, or the infamous, I'm gonna tell that officer to lock you up if you keep acting up. Like, no, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to police your children. We're not here to be the bad guys. That's not what we're here for. And you know, it's so funny that as police, it's like we get this whole, it's like just the very sight of us is bad. Now, I'm just going to say this. Now, is this some of us out there that's just doing the bad thing? Absolutely.
I agree.
And I be trying to tell people, because people be quick to say, well, if the good cops would police the bad cops, then we wouldn't have this issue. And then I always tell people, The most complaints is officers against officers. The
100%.
issue is you have civilian boards that say, no, bring that officer back. And then what do you have? It's not up to us.
Mm-hmm.
We go through the process. That officer is cited, and then the civilian board says no, and that officer is right back with back pay. So
Yeah,
it's not our fault. It's above us. When we see wrong, Step, you've done this for 21 years. I've done. We check each other. We
100%.
check each other on scene. We
Yep.
argue on scene,
Yep.
on camera. There's been policies where it had to be where, hey, don't argue on scene. Conduct unbecoming when you fight each other on scene, because we've had to check each other. So it's not like we're not checking each other. It's just that it's stuff above us. Shit, we've gotten in trouble for checking people with more rank than us. It's
Yeah.
not like we're mindless drones where
Yeah.
we're like, hey, do this, do this, do this. I'm like, no, Sergeant, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. That's against policy. I'm not doing that. That
Yeah.
doesn't sound right. So, people need to stop thinking that it's like TV where cops are sitting here and it's like cutting the coke open, looking
I
around and
know.
like, hey, it's like $2 million worth of coke here. They ain't gonna miss it. This is not TV.
No.
Like 99% of us is doing our fucking jobs, and the 1% is out here doing some crazy shit, and
Yep.
they're getting caught or they're not getting caught. And then when they do get caught, then the chips lie where they lie.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, man, this job attracts the type A personality. And my joke is, me, dude, I don't take myself seriously. I'm goofy. I'm silly. Uh, I try to treat everybody with respect until it's time not to. But if they try me, the areas we work, you have to be ready to roll. But I always wonder, did cops? It's like the chicken or the egg first. Did cops become assholes because they're cops, or did they become cops because they're assholes? But some cops are assholes to us. Even as a sergeant, you have officers that are an asshole, or you have a captain or officers. I mean, they're just assholes in general, and they're assholes to people in the public. And we both worked with them, and they're assholes to us. And it makes us look bad, but they're just assholes. I mean, in every profession. But don't hold that against 800,000 officers. If there are bad cops, we worked with them. We worked with officers who went to prison. They should have been. And but that doesn't define what we all do. I mean, there's I wish and it's disheartening when you go into during the riots or whatever. But I was a cop during 9/11, and people loved us after 9/11. There was just that you felt like a hero, even though I was in New York, I didn't have anything to do with the World Trade Center, but there was that respect for police officers and firemen. Now there's nothing. You have the politicians don't support you. That most of that 95% of the administration, they don't support you. The media doesn't support you. So who supports you? You're asking these officers to go out and do an impossible job, and then they come back and micromanage, and that just I'm sure you'll say this too. Most of the stress from the job doesn't come from the person in the street. It comes from the administration, and
Absolutely.
it's tough. Because before you're like, hey, let me just I don't know how many times I've told them, I'm like, just let me be a cop. Let me go out and do my job. Leave me alone. I'll stay within policy and law, but they come back and they micromanage and they just all over the place.
How many? I think in my last 5 years, I knew something was wrong when I would start thinking about possible days off when I had to go hands on,
Yeah.
or when I had to ratchet things up. I would start thinking about, I might get days off. I might not be able to do off duty.
For doing your job. That's the first thing that comes to you do what you're supposed to do. Somebody's trying to either kill you or hurt you, or you intervene, and the first thing in your thought process is, am I going to get in trouble? And it stresses you out. But it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely tough. And I want to get on, you just mentioned the media, and One of my pet peeves about reason why I started doing this podcast, and one of my things that I call myself the media assassin because the media is not holding themselves accountable.
Mm,
They try to hold us to standards that they're not holding themselves to, and I say that because let's go back to the riots.
yeah.
They're not all riots. Riots is a buzzword. It's a
Mhm.
word that perks your ears.
Yep.
99% of it is protest.
100%. Yep.
Um, how many times have we been in a protest where we're on the bus? They say, "Hey, go to fourth." We'll go to fourth. They'll be like, "Hey, get ready." We'll get off the bus. They'll be like, "Never mind, get back on the bus."
100. Yeah. 90% of the time.
There's no riot.
Hmm.
A riot is where they're throwing rocks,
Yep.
smashing windows, fighting.
Yep.
That's a riot.
And
It's
you know what, as well as I do, us as we're for peaceful protest. I don't know any cop that say, hey, people shouldn't peacefully protest, regardless if it's anti-police or not. Uh, that's their right. And and what we do is we stand there and protect those people, and we let them yell and scream at us or whatever. And you can't take it personally. But yeah, you're right. It changes, and it has. In the 16 riots, I was from there from night one, and we were getting rocks thrown at us. And the next night, fire. There's a gentleman killed downtown, and people were throwing rocks and firecrackers and shooting at us. I mean, it's intense. I mean, it's crazy.
because that you did like the past riot when you had the Blue Lives Matter against the Black Lives Matter, and
Mm-hmm.
you just spoke about it. Like we're there to make sure they don't start killing each other. Like
Yeah,
we don't have like we're all for protesting.
yeah,
Whatever side you're on, hey, do your thing. Just don't hurt each other.
yeah. And
But
we're
when
there to
people,
keep the peace.
right,
Yeah, we're not there to intimidate one side or the other. Um,
absolutely. But then you know what? When we had the Capitol issue, and the media was showing the officers letting the people, storm past them to the Capitol building, and people was asking me, and they was like, "Blue, is that something that you would have let happen?" And I'm saying, me personally, no. But what you're also seeing is you're seeing police officers that's like, if the media doesn't care, if I'm not getting support,
yeah,
if people don't give a shit about me,
yeah,
why am I going to die?
yeah. And
It-
that's a failure of leadership, like we talked about earlier. Is it it was chaotic, but I don't think they had. It didn't appear they had clear direction. Like a lot of times you've seen that people and higher ups are scared to make decisions. So there's lack of communication and like, hey, are we supposed to defend this place, or are we supposed to de-escalate by just letting them take over? And
I didn't see anybody with bars. I didn't see like when we had our protests or our riots or demonstration, whatever you call it. Each squad had a captain, lieutenant, major. We had somebody to make decisions, and it was passed on down. What I saw going on, I just saw officers standing around, hundreds of people surrounding them, and it was like
yeah, some of it, they
it
were
was
just getting out of the way, like, hey, I don't want anything to.
right. And that's one of the things people don't understand. Like we have to make split second decisions that people get a lifetime to Monday morning quarterback. You and I both have been in shootings.
Mhm.
My shooting is on the internet. All you have to do is search Prince Blue shooting, and
Mhm.
it'll pop up. Um, I had a split second
Yep.
to make a decision, and you had officers that I wouldn't say they were upset with me, but they actually told me they was like, "Yo, you gave too many warnings."
Yeah.
Like they was like, "You gave too many warnings," and then you had some people that was like, "You didn't give enough warnings."
Yeah.
And a guy was pointing a gun at me.
Yeah.
And one thing about this job is you're not going to please everybody.
You can't.
And I've always had the thought in my head that I'm going to go home and let people make decisions later,
Yeah. You have to,
whatever that means.
because if you know as well as me, if you hesitate, you could die, right? And so and the last thing we want to do is have to shoot somebody or use force because we're worried about not only pushback from the public but inside our own agency and second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking. And so people don't realize we don't want to use force. That's the last resort that officers do.
Now, Step, I was glad to have you on because one of the things that a lot of followers I get, I'm a black police officer, so I get it. I get it really, really bad
Yeah,
because
I always
I
felt bad with you guys. You get called. We'll be in the hood, man, and they're calling you guys Uncle Tom and
coons and two black for the bad. No, two black for the bad, two blue for the brothers. It's like bad. And people will ask me questions. So I was glad to have you on because, yes, is it some white officers that have some weird, like, I'm just gonna say this. When you got officers that have limited interactions with minorities, and
mm-hmm.
then you got a kid from like Eastern Kentucky, and
Yeah,
then you throw him in Eastway,
yeah.
is he gonna have a culture shock?
Oh, 100
You
percent.
fucking right he is.
Yeah,
When he like you worked in a lot of urban areas with a lot of minorities, so if a black guy's animated, if he's yelling, if he's doing this, listen, he just yelling, he cool, he animated, we good, he's not aggressive. But
exactly.
if John from Eastern Kentucky, he's like, oh, I got a combative one, should I mace him, should I tase him, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, you're right.
So I need people to understand when people are like, such and such is racist. No, 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 no. That's not a race issue. That's a quality control and training issue. You need to start vetting these people more. Hey, you're possibly going to a hot spot with a lot of minorities. How much experience do you have in urban settings?
Yeah,
Be honest.
yeah.
Well, sir, I grew up here. Okay. Well, we're not going to start you there. We're going to start you
They, they
here.
they need to, and like you said, you have to learn the culture. And most of the problems we see in the news and uh, issues with officers are either uh, uh, training and experience, right? So it's sometimes it's life experience and sometimes it's just experience on the street. But you have to have that training, you have to have that experience. But also, if you work in an area, you need to learn the culture. If in Eastway we had a really high Vietnamese culture, and then you go 2 blocks down and it's African American, and then you go 2 blocks the other way of Central where sharing Amity, and it's 99% Hispanic. So and it's like deep. If you're over some of those places over there, you feel like you're in Mexico or Honduras or something. I mean, that's how Hispanic is. The shops and so each response area was totally different. And then you go to Davison, and it's like being in Asheville and just hippies. And so the way you communicate with people in each area is a little different. And you have to recognize and respect the differences in the cultures, and you'll get more respect in return, have more control, and have less use of the force, and get more compliance when you do that. Like you said, if somebody, sometimes they're animated. You go to Belmont Allen and somebody's, all waving their hand. Look, let them vent, dude. Dude, I got you, man. I'll be pissed off too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you learn. It's all about talking to people. We've been de-escalating for years and years and years before the buzzword even came along. But it's just how you talk to people, man.
Right. Because my thing was I never understood when, like, you'll get some officers, you'll get some cops that'll be like, so and so's yelling. When you yell if you get fucking pulled over?
Hell yeah.
On your way to work or something, wouldn't you be upset? let them yell. Like, it's okay. Like, man,
You
what the
can't
fuck?
you can't take it personal. So I mean,
Yeah,
if that's the worst they're due, we win, right? So
yeah.
they're not trying. I tell people all the time, you can even run. Give me,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go, but as long as you don't try to hurt me or my people, I'm not mad at you. I mean, it's, and you have to realize when they're frustrated or angry, they're, it's not me as personal as John Stepp. They see that badge in the
CMPD.
party, and that's what they're.
Right.
And you have to realize that they don't know me. I mean, how many like your mama, your girl, your wife, all these other people, just
They
dude,
don't know.
they don't know, man. They don't know. You can't let it bother you.
Unless they Google real quick, they don't know. Like, I remember one time I had a guy that like, it looked like he was about to run. He was about to take off. He had a 7-Eleven. He was, he was itchy. And immediately I just didn't feel like running that day. I looked down and he had on some crisp J's. And I was like, dude, you looking all around like, man, you got on some nice Jordans. Like, you want to crease those? He like, man, I ain't gonna run. He was like, man, what you know about Jordans? I was like, I know those too nice to run. He stayed there. I ran him. He ain't have nothing. He walked off. Like, you just gotta know. You just gotta know. Just find a way inside. Just it's okay to be human, and I'm talking to officers now. You don't have to be so hopped up.
No, that's the
Get
thing,
out,
man.
hand on gun, and
No.
John
Just be,
Wayne.
just be chill. And a lot of people think that's unprofessional, but they don't realize if a lot of times when I make a traffic stop, I'll be like, hey man, what's up? Or how you doing? I'm small talking. I'm not hey, I'm Sergeant Stepp with CMPD and blah blah blah. As soon the thing is, as soon as people hear that, they'll be like, who the hell is this dude? And you lose credibility. And if you just talk to people like you do anybody, if you run into them at a supermarket or whatever, it just they see you as a person, right?
Right.
Instead of just some robot or but it helps, dude. Like, and I tell them, like I said, dude, I'll be mad too. It's okay to get mad. If my wife did this or this happened to me, or I'd be pissed off. And that's the thing is a lot of officers don't get it. They just take it personal, and then sometimes it escalates when it doesn't need to. So I agree with you.
And stop me if I'm wrong here, Steph. How many people? And you get this with a lot of rookies, and you even get this with a lot of vets. Like, they actually think because you tell somebody to do something, like, it's supposed to be done. Like,
Yeah.
hey, come here. Like, no.
And especially when if you go in the minority neighborhood and you talk to somebody that way, firstly they're like, hey, I'm a man, talk to me like one. So you have to show, don't expect respect unless you're willing to give it. And I mean, you're right. I mean, it's all on how you talk to people. And sometimes, hey, and how many times, sometimes if somebody gets out of line, you have to kind of ramp it up to bring them back down. But then you guys are best friends because they respect, hey, I've got a job to do. I've got called here. This is what I got to do. If you explain to people, hey, I'm not here to ruin your life. Where do you work? I tell a lot of people, hey, what do you do? Well, how would you feel if somebody came to your job and talked to you the way you're talking to me? And a lot of times that works. And just trying to find that common ground to relate to somebody to bring them back down.
And I know community policing, they want to try to make it sound like it's a new and hip thing. But back in the day, I remember when police stayed and you knew them by name. And I know now sometimes it's relevant. And I know you could probably speak to this if you've been in a neighborhood one time and you're trying to talk to somebody, and then you got somebody else that look like they want to get a little fresh, and somebody else would be like, nah, man, that's Step. Yo, he cool peoples, man. Don't do that.
All
Don't
the time.
do that.
It happens all the time. And because you have that mutual respect. And a lot of these people are down with luck. And a lot of people committing crimes just because that's all they know. And that's their hand they're dealt. I've dealt with a lot of people who they might like to sell drugs or do something, but they're not bad people. They're just a product of their environment. And if you show them respect, that goes a long way, especially somebody, underprivileged, homeless people, show them respect. And most of the time they reciprocate it back to you. But it's it's a two-way street. You have to show respect to get respect.
Absolutely. And that you know, this past year, it's well, these past 4 years, it's been kind of rough. Because of the political climate, it's been kind of divided, and you know, it's been the years of the slogans, and you're either this way or that way, and it's resonated through the department. I mean, it hasn't, and then some people have made, they've drawn their line in the sand. Some have made it known, some haven't. But one thing I've noticed with the department in which we left is clearly a I can do this, but you can't.
Yeah.
And that's the part that bothers me. It's like I can rep X. If you like X, good, great, we're okay. But if you like Y, nah, take
Yeah.
that down. No, now we're going to watch you.
Mm-hmm.
Now everything that you do, check mark, check mark, check mark,
100%.
check mark, check mark.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on stuff like that?
I think it's ridiculous. So, and we refer to it in law enforcement, I'm sure, maybe as drinking the Kool-Aid, right? So, and there's a lot. Anybody that worked for me would, I've gone toe to toe with as a sergeant, with lieutenants, with captains, with majors, taking up for my people. And I told my my standard was this to my new people is do what you're supposed to do. If we make a mistake, we'll deal with it. But if you do what you're supposed to do, I'll back you 100%. And I never had any of my guys get jammed up. They tried to, but once they couldn't get to them, then they'd come after me. Well, you cursed while somebody was trying to kill you and pull a gun or crash your car, ram in your car, and then I'd get written up. But you know what? That's okay because as a supervisor, my job was to make sure, number one, I'll tell my people, family first, and you go home to your family, and then that's number one priority. But and then we'll worry about this job. But make sure everybody does this. And they have to know that you're going to back them. And there's so many supervisors hadn't, and a lot of problems is they haven't been a cop. They haven't been on the streets. They haven't been in use of the force. They don't know what
They're
it's like.
admin.
So yeah, they're admin, and they critique you to the point where it's not realistic. And if it doesn't happen perfect, then you get jammed up.
You know what you just described, Step? You described a supervisor. You didn't describe a leader. You
Exactly.
were a leader. You
And
were
I
a
always tell
leader.
people my goal, before I got promoted Eastway, all the people I worked with, I know Rango and Ash and all these guys, Connor, all those guys are squared away dudes. And I'll tell them, hey, if I get promoted, I don't care how I go, I won't drink the Kool-Aid and I'll take care of my people. And that's what I stood true to that. And that's all you could do is stand up for what's right, take care of your people, and it goes along. If it doesn't matter if it's a popular decision or not, you have to do what you stand for. And I had a major tell me, who I respect, that the reason your peers and people like you is because you don't drink the Kool-Aid and you take care of your people. Well, the problem higher ups don't like me is because I don't drink the Kool-Aid and I take care of my people. But at retirement, it's more important for me to have the respect of people, my peer and lower, than it is for some major. I could care less. If they like me, they're going to like me for who I am and because I'm a cop, and a cop, not because I was a suck ass or anything. You know what I'm saying? And so that's important to me. And people who micromanage and throw their people in the bus and do one things and hold people to other standards, it's just ridiculous.
And that's the one thing that, and I didn't know that until it was time for me to go out the door and time for me to retire. I had the respect of my peers, and
Mm-hmm.
I had the respect of not maybe, but I had the respect of the higher ups that mattered,
Sure. Yeah.
not the people that
Yep.
I probably saw once or twice at the LEC. No,
Yep.
I had the respect of the people that mattered. And
That's
whenever it was time for me to get jammed up or on something, the people that mattered stuck their neck out for me and was like, no, not him.
Yeah,
No.
and and that goes a long ways. And you're right. I mean, you had a great reputation because you were who you were. And you have to be true to yourself, and you can't change who you. I mean, I put on a uniform, but I'm underneath that uniform. I'm still me, right? So, and yeah, I got to stay true to me and my beliefs in what's right and wrong, the same way as everybody else. And too many times the administration compromises who they are or their beliefs because they want to go higher up, and they don't care about anybody below them. They're just trying to climb the ladder, and and we're and I can't respect that. I mean, I've seen a lot. You have to. I've seen a lot of good cops screwed over and careers ruined because of bad leadership, or not even
And
leadership,
let's
bad vision. So my job, I always said, my job's not to. I'll look at it as a leader, not as a supervisor. Too many supervisors they determine their success based on how many people they write up. And my goal is, I'm a failure if I have to write people up, because then my intervention didn't work, or their respect for me wasn't there. I want people to do what I ask them to, and I'm willing to do too, based on their respect for me, not because I have stripes on my sleeves. That means nothing. So that was just my philosophy of
let's get into, because I know why people are here. Let's get into some of the things that our old department. What are some of the things that needs to change in order to boost the morale of our brothers and
I tell you
sisters
what,
that's back there?
what frustrates me is how out of touch the administration and the leadership is. So a lot of people have their opinion of Putney. I love Putney. Putney. I was me and Brian Russell over K9 were in one-on-ones with him for morale, and he would listen. He cared about it, and it was amazing what was going on in the department that he wouldn't even aware about. So he would go to a major, hey, how's morale in Eastway? All major. I mean, chief, it's awesome. Everything's 100% great. And as well as me, it's not. So some of the higher ups, one, they don't care, or two, they're only hearing what their captains or majors are telling them, and they're not being honest with them and let them know. As well as me, especially now, I haven't spoken to one officer in the last year who said, hey, who's been on for more than a year, that's like, hey, I'm happy. I see everybody feels betrayed, burnt out, and it's depressing, man, because they're not being taken care of. If it's their mental health or for me, when I got diagnosed with PTSD in October, and not one person from the department, other than my friends or that I was friends with, I didn't have one call from admin being like, hey, Steppe, we're just checking on you, or how are things, or even when I retired. So when I got to the point when I retired the first of the month in February, I didn't get a card, or no one said, hey, thank you for your service. As soon as I got diagnosed with PT, they wrote me off with PTSD. They wrote me off and just abandoned me. So any help I get, other than HR was awesome, and Dr. E, we know who that is. If you work there, was 100% helpful. You could find, that's somebody to talk to. He's a psychologist. If you work at the department and you have an issue, go talk to him. He understands, and it was really helpful. But as far as the administration, there was zero support.
And you know what? As you say that, my thing is, how can you be out here and you try to recruit people, and I'm pretty sure this podcast is going to get out, and
Mm-hmm.
recruits are going to see this, and I want them to see this, and I want them to hear this. How can you recruit as a damn police department? And if these kids or these recruits get into something and their mental health is off, and they may need to take a few days off or something, and they don't get any support from the administration or the higher ups, why would I join this? Why would I want to be a part of this? Why would I risk my life knowing that if shit goes down or shit gets hairy, I don't have anybody that has my back? There is no reason on God's green earth, or whatever earth that you worship, that you should have not gotten one phone call from anybody. Even if you fake it, even if you're grinding your teeth. Hey, Step, how are you? Are you okay? I've seen faker shit than ever. I've seen people shake hands that they absolutely, once the door slammed, they was like, I can't stand that motherfucker. So you telling me you can't pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Step, I heard what happened. Good luck to you. It could be a generic. Good luck to you in your future endeavors.
Yeah.
I've signed cards that I've absolutely didn't like the motherfucker, but he got hurt.
Yeah.
He or she got hurt, and I'm like, get well,
And
Prince.
that's the thing.
Not
If
hard.
if you get hurt, say, physically, if you get shot, the outpouring of support, or you're in a car wreck, you have support. What happens is, what really spoke and hit home with me was there was a picture I took for my passport photo, and it's a white background. And when I was flipping through to look at, I didn't recognize that person. Just it reminded me of a war photo from Vietnam or World War II, where the people have been entrenched in battle, and that just had that 1,000-yard stare, and just you could see the hurt and everything on their face. And I saw that person. I'm like, that's me, and all the issues I was having, and then to come out and beg for help. I felt like, then I felt like I did wrong, and then I felt, abandoned, and then depression seeks in, and you have all these issues because you're like, well, what's wrong with me? Well, some of these people who I thought were my friends or my leaders, who would take credit when we did really good stuff, would turn their back on me, and they're nowhere around. And I'm like, I need help. Just like I've been shot or wrecked, I need help, and it wasn't there. And the department is a culture at the department that needs to be changed. And until that's done, and the understanding of and some critical incidents, they have debriefs, right? So I remember March 26, 2016, I was in a shooting. My partner got shot beside me. I was in a 7-minute shootout. My partner got shot. Suspect got shot multiple times. He shot somebody else.
That's at the LEC, correct? That was the shooting at the LEC, correct?
No, this was the one at on Honey Hill Lane off South Tron. And I basically, when I came back, I had 3 days off, right? So the first day I got, like, you don't, you've been, your mind's racing, you're playing it over. What should I have done better? So, I was running out of ammo. I was on my last magazine. So, you get 3 hours sleep, you wake up, it's playing in your mind. 3 days later, you're back at work. You go walk to the scene, you do ABC. I wasn't ready to go back to work, but you can't say that because you're worried about how people are going to view you. You have to be strong and just go back. And it's tough.
What's funny? That it's like you and you can't do nothing but laugh, because it's like you get into all these things. You do all these things for the department, and it's like you feel used.
No, 100%. And so even though I like who was my captain at the time, I have respect for him. But after I gave my debrief in front of 30, 40 people, what happened? It's the first time in front of officers I'm telling what happened. And I said, hey, Captain, do you have anything to add? And he's like, traffic stops are down. I'm thinking, are you serious? Traffic stops are down. Not, hey, I'm glad everybody's alive or okay, but and then how does that make you feel? It's like, well, shit, yeah,
this whole macho bullshit that police departments try to portray is cool in movies, but we're human beings. Like, shootings hurt. Watching your partners get shot hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Watching people die hurts. Watching kids die hurt. Seeing somebody's brain splattered on the ground hurt. Seeing a old lady die and get CPR for 10 minutes and then have to tell their husband
Hmm.
as they're getting ready for work that their wife is dead
Yeah.
hurts. Like
Yeah.
this shit hurts. It adds up and it hurts. So when you and oh yeah, by the way, you're telling us to put all this shit on our waist like we're Batman and go out and compartmentalize all this shit and go to the next call and push all that back to our brain and handle this call like it's brand new.
Yeah. And I tell people the way the analogy I give is it's like you have an iPhone or Android if you're not cool, but if people, you know, and you're loading apps on them, and eventually you run out of space, right? And then what do you have to do? You have to deal with the older apps to make room for the newer ones. So it's the same thing like the traumatic injuries or memories where you just, hey, I just saw this, little kid's brains splatter everywhere, or suicide, or having to tell somebody their loved one's dead or their son, and it hurts to tell people that. And then you go to the next call, and it's somebody, loud noise complaint, and then so you just throw it back like it's in the back of the trunk, or it's an app, you just download it. Then eventually you run out of space to put stuff, and it just starts crashing back down. Then you have to deal with it. And when you get to that point, it's a lot harder to deal with it than if you do individually.
I know one thing that I would love to change about my old department, but it doesn't matter. They keep putting these supervisors in place that wasn't cops for very long, wouldn't be able to tell a robbery from a fucking a shoplifting charge.
Yeah.
I once had a major in front of me that told me I have the worst record of a police officer that he's ever seen
That's a
that's still
compliment.
with that's still with the department. And this funny looking motherfucker, he's no longer with the department. He's somewhere like in Navajo with the Mohicans. That's the only way he could get a chief job. His ugly ass, he did everything in his power to break me, and he couldn't break me.
Mm-hmm.
And he he just when I looked and I searched around, and every time I mentioned his name, nobody had any good thing to say about him.
Sure. Yeah.
And I kept wondering, like, if that's the case, how does he keep moving up? But you know what? I think back to what you said. He drunk the Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
and he was all about how many people he can screw to get to the
They
top.
and
And
they
these are the people that are getting promoted.
and they want people to fall in line and just do what they say. They don't want to be questioned. They don't want people to be more knowledgeable than they are, and that's a problem. And any cop you ask, what's the people in leadership who never. It's okay if you haven't been a cop and you get promoted because you just look smart and good. That's fine. But the problem is you need to learn the culture of police and what we deal with. And it just because you have stripes on your sleeves or clover leaves doesn't mean you know how the job's done. As many times uh, as a sergeant over my last assignment when I was over the FMT, I had a bunch of squared away dudes. Everybody was squared away, and I don't know how many times there was my go-to people. I'd be like, Ryan or Chuck or whoever. I'd be like, hey, this is my plan. What do you think? Because and I recognize they had more experience at certain things than I did. Just because I'm a sergeant doesn't mean I know it all. You you
Hmm.
you have to you have to rely on the people under you to. It's okay to be like, hey, I'm not sure. Let me call somebody, or let me rely on somebody who has more experience than my senior guys, and then learn and then make decisions. But they're not willing. There's too many people. Hey, I've got stripes or I've got clover leaves. I know it's my way, the highway. Get over it. Bye. And they make bad decisions, and it costs the morale of the department, and people were leaving. HR said between December and January of this last couple of months, 32 officers resigned, quit, or went out medical, which is unheard of. You know as well as me. Normally, you get the weekly updates. It's maybe 2 to 3 people on there. So if that, probably 4 or 5 a month, we're averaging lost, not 32. And since then, there's been a handful. I know Independence is losing 2 to other departments, and the
How many
rookies.
of those? How many of those 32 got their 10 grand?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking Ponzi scheme. I want my money,
Yeah.
CMPD.
You're waiting. It's been years, man. And I was like, man, I thought I'd get either killed or fired before I did my time, so I didn't do it. I'm like,
Well, you know what? I invested in that bullshit because I'm bright as hell. I'm like, I got a job with CMPD. What,
mm-hmm.
$5 a week, and then I'm gonna get $10,000 when I retire? Sign me up. But see, I wasn't an accountant, and I wasn't watching American Greed before then. But years down the line, I was watching American Greed, and I was like, wait a minute. If they don't get new investors, which was the recruits, then
Yep.
they ain't gonna be able to keep paying out. So guess what? You got me.
Still ain't got
Ha
paid.
ha. Still ain't got
If
paid.
you would have put that in a 457, you'd have been set.
Fucking Ponzi scheme.
Interest.
People got boats and shit. Give me my money, CMPD. They probably gonna pay us like $2 a piece. Where's the money? I
With
need
interest,
my money.
back pay with interest.
Yeah, it's bullshit. But I know what I recently there was a report about this. What I wanted to ask you, Step,
Yeah.
because of course you're white, so we can ask you this. The report came out that I'm not breaking any news. Yes, he's a white guy. More black people are searched and pulled over than any other I guess you could say any other race in CMPD. But I laughed because I'm like, you just said it. Let me see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Eastway. Eastway is predominantly black.
And I love when people say this, and I wish the department would be more on the offensive and tell people, you know as well as I do. So in Eastway, one of our high crime areas was the Belmont community, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of good people in that community, but they rely on us to protect them. So most of the robberies and shootings and drive-by, and I mean, it'd be summertime, and I think one day in working Eastway, I had 5 people shot just in the Belmont in one shift. So those people rely on the good people rely on us to protect them. So that's where they send the resources. So now it's a little different now, but back in the day when we were 99% of the people who lived there were in Belmont were African American. So if they sent us there to protect these people, and I was part of the street crimes unit, so we go there. And you had open air drug market, you had open prostitution, you had drive-by shootings daily, a lot of bad people, and a lot of the good people there were scared to say good things about us because they're worried about retaliation. But so that's where you put us. So you ask us to make traffic stops and get out with people and do proactive police work to protect those people in the community, which is what we're doing. And so 9 out of 10 of our contacts are going to be
African American.
African American. And if you see a white dude in Belmont back in the day, he's there to buy drugs or pick up a prostitute.
He's there to buy heroin or buy a prostitute. Correct.
We're getting out with him. We're like, hey, dude, what the hell are you doing over here, man? And they're like, you profile me. I'm like, dude, you're white. You can't say that shit. But yeah, you're exactly right.
But now the Belmont area is you can have crack house, $500,000 home. So it's like so gentrified that now the numbers will be skewed. But I hate the way they do that. Now in South Division, show us the numbers in South Division to where, I just hate the way, again, the media this is one of those things where numbers lie. They do lie. There's no context.
You gotta take and put them in perspective, and they don't do that. But you can't be afraid to be like, hey, you know as well as me, a majority, 90% of the time when there's a drive-by shooting or a robbery in those high crime areas, it's not 90% of the time it's a black male robbing a black person. And that black person is calling 911 to report a black person's robbing them. We're not saying, hey, we had a robbery, it must be a black person. So in that community, it was high crime. They would send us there because of robberies and stuff. And a lot of times the bad people were preying on their own community, and they need protection just as much, if not more, than some of the white community. I live in a nice neighborhood. I don't have open air drug activity. I don't have drive-by shootings. So that's something that I don't have to deal with. So I don't expect the FMT or street crimes to be driving around my neighborhood. You're not going to find anything. But you have to protect those 95% of the people plus that live in that community that are good people, law-abiding citizens, and they want protection. So that's it. I tell people I get really pissed off when somebody says I'm white or whatever. 99.9% of the time that I've been put in danger, it's in a black community or Hispanic community, and I don't drive. Not that I worked in Valentine because we make fun of those cops who work over there, but if I don't drive any slower because I'm going to Belmont, right, or Airwood Nation Ford or something. When somebody needs help and calling the police, than I do if I would respond to South Park.
Right.
And that's what pissed me off is in the shooting that I was in. My partner got shot. We were there to save I was on the way home. I called. I was on the way home and decided to go to that call instead, and ended up getting a shooting that changed my life forever. But I was there to protect an African American male who I really would like to talk to him, but they never did. But apparently he's going to officers saying that, hey, I used to hate police and I got shot by my roommate and the cops there, and I would be dead if they didn't come there to save me. So, and now he has a respect for us. And that means everything to me because, yeah, will that affect me probably for the rest of my life? Yes. And my partner who got shot 100%. So, but we saved that guy's life. I didn't go home and be like, oh, it's a black person that shot him. Let me just go home and do whatever. No, I turned around and went to the shooting, and I drove fast. And I got there and was engaged the suspect who shot him. And in the victim's words, we saved his life because the suspect was going to finish him off. We didn't show up as quick as we did. And that means everything to me. And so when people like, of course I get it. People will call me racist because I'm white, but and that's just not me. That's 99.9% of the cops would do that. Like, if you got a call, you're not going to drive slower because it's a white neighborhood. If you had to go to the country club, if you're going to go in, because good cops don't see color. They don't see black and white and Hispanic. They just see, I became a cop because I wanted to stand between the bullies in society. Growing up, I wasn't very good, but I played football and everything else. But I wanted to protect people. I always took up for the people getting picked on, and that's the way I saw me. I'm not there to ruin regular people's lives, but to protect people and help out whenever I can. So,
honestly, if I was a white cop, I wouldn't be bald or have tattoos because you're going to get pigeon-toed. I would grow a mullet and just be as non-American history X as I can look, because y'all just gonna be pigeon-toed. But let's get to some fun, because one of the things I appreciated about you, Steppe, was, and a lot of things that officers don't get credit for, is a lot of you guys are very bright, very entrepreneurish. You got a lot of things going on. Talk to me about how'd you get into your surplus business and how successful you got, and what made you get into that?
So back in the day, man, it was like 2004. Me and one of my partners at the time were like, hey, if we could figure out how to get stuff at wholesale, all the shit that cops buy, you're always a flashlight. I got 4 of them, but I want another one, or different handcuffs, black hand. If it's black, we call it tactical. So tactical this, just throw the word tactical in front of them, people buying it. And so I figured out how to get it wholesale. But the good news is, and a lot of people I worked with will tell you that I'd always give other cops at my price, or sometimes even less. I never would mark up items for cops. But I became really successful, mostly on eBay. So successful that when we were in Eastway, I'd drive a Bentley GT to work, or my Maserati.
Fucking Maserati. Stop being modest. You drive. I come to work. Who the fuck driving a Maserati? Steppe. Who the fuck is Steppe? Is that his name?
So the perception was there. So it wasn't a good perception. It's like if you're a preacher and you're driving a nice car, people think you're on the take or something. You're like you're taking the tithing. But I was really successful. I used it as fun money, put money away. But and another thing was, like, I want, if I was injured, or who knows, you could do the right thing and get fired. You don't have to be a bad cop to get fired. That I had something to fall back on, and I wanted to broaden my my prospects a little more than just being, because, think I'm 42 years old. I know I look 27. That's going to surprise people. But I started BLET, Police Academy, at 19. So my entire adult life, my degrees in criminal justice, my entire adult life, I've been a cop. So if you count my academy time, 43 years of being a cop. And I don't know anything else. I just know how to be a cop. So quick story, I was helping one of my buddies who's a retired cop who's one of the best legend cops in the CMPD history. Collins is his last name. So if you're from CMPD, you probably know his first name. I don't want to throw him out there. So we're
Phil Collins. Phil.
No, close. John Collins.
Oh, okay.
So he's Vice, founded PCAT, Vice, undercover. Worked with
superhero.
Just he's freaking awesome, man. So he's like, hey, Steppe, I need some help doing. He's a PI, doing some surveillance. I'm like, John, I don't want to mess. I'm just trying to chill, man. I'm not trying to do anything. So he said, hey, just help me out for a couple hours. So anyway, I'm doing surveillance at a location that I can't say because it was yesterday. So anyway, there was, you talk about you never get at it. I'm sitting there, I'm chill. I'm playing on my social media. I'm, posted a TikTok or whatever I do. And I see this dude, I'm like, this guy's up to something. He's got his hoodie up, got his mask on, looking around. I'm like, dude, this guy's sketch. I'll take a couple pictures of him. And next thing you know, he motions over a car. Car pulls up. Four dudes in it. What do? They have a mask put on the hoodies, and they have on latex gloves. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm thinking, I'm in my sweatpants and my workout clothes. I've got my gun with me with 15 rounds in, but I don't have extra magazines. I'm like, I'm just doing surveillance, writing stuff down. And they're getting ready to jump out into a robbery. And thank God that a motorcycle just happened to be going to get dinner or something, and drove through, and they saw him. One guy ran, the other guy took off in the car. So I'm like, shit. So I got behind the car, took a picture of the tag. Car stolen. I'm on the phone with one of the sergeants. Car stolen. I'm like, hey, they're getting ready to freaking do a hit. They're getting ready to do a robbery. Goes in a one way out, one way in, one way out. They end up getting 4 people in the car. Another car stolen. It was beside them. Took off. Almost ran over me. Crashed to the car. They jump out and run. Get a gun from the car. They got away. So I'm like, shit. I'm supposed to be retired, man. I told my buddy, I said, I'm not helping you anymore, man. I'm done. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit in my rocking chair and look out the window and drool. But
I went to Harris Teeter this morning.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, but what you're talking about, you don't lose that sense of, hey, that doesn't look right. That hyper vigilance. So
I went to Harris Teeter and bought almond milk. You was in a fucking almost robbery.
That's why Amazon Prime, man. Amazon Prime now. I don't even leave the house. I have them sent to me. Pay the $4.
Tell us about the surplus.
Yeah. So anyway, military police gear. Gloves, backpacks, all that cool stuff. There for a while, right before the 14 is when I had my biggest year. I was doing like $600,000 worth of sales a year, just killing it. But I got promoted, less time and stuff. I'm still dabbling in it, might pick it back up, but just something to keep me busy. I just can't sit around and play video games, even though I'd like to. I want to play.
Hey, listen, it can happen.
Yeah.
And if you need a sponsor, I got you. Cause all my people, all my listeners and stuff, they crazy. They just be buying shit, getting ready for the apocalypse. That's all they be talking about. Hey, if it's a war, I need to be ready. Like, so if you sell canned soup, canned goods, ammo, because they swear it's gonna be zombies. After the vaccination, they think it's gonna be World War Z. So they need all that shit. So if you need a sponsor, just holler at me offline. I got you. But you're very entrepreneurship. You have always been an entrepreneur since I've known you in Eastway. That was the one thing I admired about you. I was like, like at first I was like, you gotta be like, I think Step's a little off. He can stop right now, but I also admired you because I was like, even though you can stop, you love this. This is what you do.
It was my passion from the age that I could ever remember. I wanted to serve the community. I wanted to be a cop, and I still bleed blue, and it just became something that was toxic for me, in the way, especially in today's environment. And you have to know when to step away, and
Yeah.
that's a hard decision to make, but that's what I had to do, and I love it. I mean, it becomes your almost your identity to a lot of people, and then you lose that, and then you have to find yourself again. So, but I I grew up, even in high school, remember like America's Craziest Police videos, and then Cops, and I just loved it. I ate it up, and that's all I wanted to do. So, but the good news is, I look back, I've done everything I wanted to do in my career. There's nothing. I was getting ready to get promoted to lieutenant before my TikToks. That kind of messed things up. And I really didn't want to be a lieutenant, other than to make a difference for my people. I wanted to be able to have more say to protect my people that are doing the right thing. And I knew that would get me out of the grind, because even as a sergeant, I'm out there. If something's happening, I'm there. I'm out there 95% of the time. So, and that would force me to take a back seat, and I knew I needed that. But
Yeah,
tough decision.
well, listen, that's the one thing about it. You and I had to make that same decision, and
Right.
I dealt with it to where my wife used to always say, "You got to find your purpose. Like, I can't find it for you. Nobody can find it." And I think with this podcast, it took me a long time to find it, but I think it's with this, and I get to talk with people like you, and you're next. Ann is in here. We're gonna I'm gonna keep doing more things, and I'm gonna keep spotlighting positive people and inspiring change a different way. Like I did it as a police officer. It's different ways to inspire change. I did it that way. So now I'm gonna do it a different way. But the one thing I want to say is that I just wanted to make sure to let people know, and it was very important for me to get you on because, like I said, being a black police officer, I get it. I know that it's been rough, and I know it's been some unnecessary deaths out there, and some white police officers doing some very awful and heinous and stupid things out there. But I also know that it's some such as yourself that's just out there and they're just trying to make a difference, and everything doesn't require a fight or a broad brush. And I just want to spotlight people that's doing good things, doing the right thing. And those that are doing the bad things, spotlight them too, but also make sure that people as yourself and others are getting spotlight and doing what they're supposed to do. And I also at this time want to also highlight, since we're sitting here, without police officers have it rough out there, and if we didn't have the support system at home with our spouses, we would have been either, and I'm just being real, we'd have either been done something really stupid on a job or done really something stupid to ourselves. And just speak on your lovely wife, Ann, because for those who don't know, Ann has a very successful I was gonna say catering. Why don't I say catering? A very successful organization business where she organizes and can fix and organize anything. She's done our closet, she's done our garage, she's gonna do our kitchen. And you guys have been together for a long, super long time.
99.
She's been since 1999. Can you talk about how much of a rock she's been for you and how important that's been in your career as a police officer?
Oh, 100%. So not only her, but my son, who's almost 17 now, which is my little mini me, So but you can't do it alone, and you have to be able to rely on those people who are there and love you and support you, and let them do that. And the main thing, what there's been a lot of rocky times in our relationship, like with anybody else, but with what's very important is that it got to the point where she took the initiative to understand, hey, she read the book Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, so she started recognizing, hey, if I come home and I might be an asshole, 50% of the time, 75% of the time, but I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad at Junior. I'm frustrated. I've dealt with something and I'm trying to process, and I come home, and once she started to recognize that, which was important, she said, hey, she'd call me out. Hey, shut up. You're not mad at me. Don't take it out on me, or don't take it out on Junior, and put you in check. And then it gets you to a point where, like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. And what's the big thing is, the frustration you bring home, you take it over. We talked about it earlier. You take it on people who are closest to you. And, that's why relationships get ruined. But you have to have a spouse or family or son or daughter that recognizes they need to know you need to be able to talk about your job. They need to know you experienced something bad. This is why I'm reacting. So once they recognize that and they learn, hey, yeah, Junior hey, Dad's being an asshole, but he just, had to, do something or something. He just experienced this. And once they understand that and call you out on it, then it keeps you in check. And that's what you need. And a lot of the marriages fail, but because of lack of knowledge, they think, hey, this person's not the person who I married, and and they leave, but they have to. It's the wife is just as important in the relationship as a law enforcement officer to know the job and what they deal with, just as a law enforcement officer, and they got to educate themselves on what we go through and how to deal with it. Because without that support, you're done, man. You can't do it alone, because whoever you put in that slot, yeah, you're going to take it out on them eventually. So, but once they recognize it and know how to deal with it, it helps. It helps. You got to call that person out.
It helps a lot, because I know for a fact, my wife, it also helps that she's a therapist, so she's always trying to diagnose me with something weird. But she definitely understands, and she knows how to, like you said, and knows how to check you the same way my wife knows how to check me. Like, I tell this story all the time. Like, I think like a week ago, like, I was like, you know what? I'm having a shitty morning. Like, I'm just not in the mood. And she was like, okay, let me ask you this. Did you take your medicine? And I was like, no. She's like, okay, let's start there and then tell me how your day's going. And she walked out the room, and I was like, damn, well, she's right. If
they got to hold your couch. Yeah. It's not okay for me to come home and take out my aggression or my frustration or my hurt on my family. But you need that person to recognize that's what it is. It's like when someone yells at us. They're mad because of domestic violence. They're not mad at us. You have to separate yourself and recognize what it is, and deal with it. And that doesn't mean that I don't hurt feelings and maybe ruin some relationships, but it's got to be recognized, and you have to deal with it internally, which I think the department could do a lot better job of, is to help guide us, tell us what we're going to deal with, because it happens to all of us. There's different parts of your career that it happens. There's different stages, and we suffer the same, and then recognize it, and then how to deal with it.
Well, Steph, the department's not going to help with mental health, because there's no publicity in that. But if you're shot or mangled, the media is going to be there for them to hug or give you a flag or blah 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 blah. See, it's all a game. It's a shell game. Okay, Fox 46 going to be here. Oh, okay. So let them see me shaking your hand or hugging your kid or hugging Ann or hugging Taika, blah blah blah. See, mental health can't be seen.
No.
But if you're missing a leg, or if you're shot, or you're laying in a hospital bed, that can be seen. That's ratings. That's Like like when remember when his name is escaping me, when he went viral giving the protester a hug.
Yeah, yeah, Frenzy, Sergeant Frenzy.
Front, oh yeah, oh yeah, straight.
I was actually a sergeant. I was right beside him, just like that far from the. I was like, damn it!
Right,
I
right,
wanted to be famous too.
right. That went viral. But what's the name who almost lost a testicle, who got hit with a rock in the nuts?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that didn't go viral.
The 32 officers there on night one that needed medical attention didn't get attention. And I tell people all the time, and I said, what do we do as an organization for crime victims and CDCP? Well, you know, if someone witnesses a crime, what we do, we send clinicians out there, we counsel them, we do all this these special things to make sure that they're, you know, from maybe just seeing their mom and dad argue, but we give them special attention. But what do you do for the officers? You don't do anything. There's nothing done for the officers who deal with stuff. But we go out our way because it's popular and it looks good to you know, take care of kids and crime victims. But we're just, if you say, hey, I need help or whatever, you're taboo and they just write you off. We're just a number.
Yeah, let me take a break real quick to say yes, for y'all that don't know, please keep we call him Stretch, but please keep Frenzy and his family
So
in your prayers. He's going through a very, very, very difficult situation right now. I just want you to know, if you hear this, Frenzy, we love you.
yeah.
We're praying for you, and we want nothing for the best for you. And if you need anything, brother, you know we're always here for you. Just
he was one of my guys when he was on patrol, and he's 100%
stand
genuine.
up.
Yeah. So
Stand up, dude.
he and just to see, you know, I've touched base with him every once in a while, not as much as I should, but it pains me. He has two kids going through horrific cancer treatments, and it breaks my heart. And he's such a good dude, and his wife's so nice, and his kids are so lovable and adorable. It breaks my heart, and I know there's been a lot of people step up to help him, but I would like to see him get more help. And we can't forget not only him, the other officers who are suffering or have family issues. You know, remember Sergeant V had his wife lost a leg to cancer,
Oh,
and you know, she's good people. We have to, as a community in law enforcement, you have to take care of your people. You have to make sure they're supported, they get the need and
we create our own support systems. The department don't. We
yeah.
have lovely CMPD wives.
People
We
step up.
create our own
Step up.
support systems.
Yeah. So the GoFundMe for Sergeant V, there was an Eastway officer, a couple Eastway officers, and my wife who set all that up. It wasn't the department.
Right. We
And
take
in
care of our
Frunzy,
own.
you know, when we get emails for help for Frunzy, it wasn't the department. It was somebody taking the lead to you know, do a GoFundMe or do something to help them.
It's just
You see as well as me. I see so many officers are suffering. You know, some from, you know, back pain, from the you know, just vests and gear. You know, 30 pounds plus, or if it's PTSD or an event they can't get out of their mind.
financial issues.
Yeah, and
It's
they feel like, and some are crying out for help. Some are begging for help, and the department's not doing anything. And which is sad, man. It's a culture we have to change, and it shouldn't be taboo to say, "Hey, I'm suffering. I need help," and then them step up. What can we do for you? How can we help? You know, that would have made a world of difference to me. You know, from suffering from PTSD, if I felt like I was supported, but
just
what made
one
everything
phone
worse?
call. You never know what one phone call would do. Even if you knew it was full of shit. Just hey, somebody said make the phone call. You know what I'm saying? It's just the department has they have a lot. They have a lot to work on. It's just everything is smoke and mirrors. Everything is,
All they care
I.
about is perception and about their image. They're not going to go out of their way to help anyone if it doesn't make them look good. If they can't get the publicity or the kudos or whatever, they're not going to do it. Very very rarely do you have someone in administration, which lieutenant or higher, that are going to even associate with you if you're not in good. If you're not in good graces, they'll throw you in the bus. And I was fortunate enough to have some supervisors that I worked for in the past. And if you're on here, you know who you are because you've reached out to me and cared about me. And that means more than anything. Then there's the other people that they totally ignore you. You text them and ask them a question or say something, and you just don't get a response back. And that makes you feel that it's devastating. So. But you have to remember those people who do care about you, and you have to remember those family members that care about you. And you kind of out of sight, out of mind. You have to realize that. I'm sure you experience it too. You're out of the pitch, so you're not in the game every day. It's like you played in high school football or professional football, and you're not on the team anymore.
Injured, that's it.
You're still part of the team, but they still think about you and tell stories about you, but you're not on the roster, and you have to, mentally, realize, hey, I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to the game, so I don't expect to see those people as much. But admit everything.
Think about it. Sometimes I think about it. I'll be like, sometimes I just want to show up the roll call. I just want to be around it. But then sometimes I'll be like, whatever.
Believe it or not, even with COVID, I decided to have a super spreader. Hopefully, no one didn't get COVID. So it's been long enough now. It's been two weeks or so. But I had over 100 people show up, and the majority of those people that showed up were rank of officer. There are a handful of sergeants. 3 lieutenants showed up and a retired captain, but everybody else were officers, and that made me feel better than anything. So.
Well, we showed up because you made an impact on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and your wife, lovely wife, showed up and represented, man. And I mean, it means everything to me when I see people come in. It makes you feel. And some people couldn't come or because of COVID or they had to work, and I get it. But a lot of those people reached out via text, and I got cards in the mail. Just remember when these officers are dealing with stuff, just it's something as simple as a thank you or text. Just saying, hey, thinking of you. Let me know if you need anything. Just anything that means the world to me, right? So because that's, and I know you experienced it too. That it's a tough transition from 45 plus hours a week you're with your people, your brothers and sisters in law enforcement, and then all of a sudden nothing.
Yeah, you got to fill that time. So I fill mine with video games.
Yep.
I work out more. Like, by the way, at your party, I Googled what do white retired guys do, and it said go to Home Depot. So I bought you a Home Depot gift card.
Yeah.
Happy retirement.
That was awesome. Good thing you didn't say play golf because I can't play golf. I'm horrible.
But yeah, we definitely gotta get up offline and do some more stuff. I appreciate you joining me, Steph, and we're definitely gonna try to make this a more casual thing because I know a lot of people be having questions, especially when stuff go down and people be having questions. I'll be like, listen, I'm not the only cop, yo. Ask somebody else. Shit.
Yeah.
And shout out to the deputy that pulled me over today for doing a 55 and a 35. I appreciate you for being nice. He gave me a warning ticket. He came up to me. He said, "Build a fire with it. Have a nice day." First of all, he looked at my retired ID and he was like, "Got out a little early, didn't you?" So I had a kick with that one. But thank you, Step. I appreciate it, man. This has been fun. This will be real. Thank you for being candid. I'm pretty sure you'll get an IA complaint.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm used to it. I got my own chair up there. So, But it's an honor to be on here, man. I really enjoy it. Anytime you want me on to talk about any issues, I'm straight up and to the point. So if I could
Yeah,
ever bring any
of
issues,
course, man. Yeah, I told you as soon I was telling Ann, I was like, yeah, just let that first check clear, and I was like, I gotta have him on, and
yeah.
it's been everything and then some, and I appreciate you. Please tell everybody about your surplus again, please. Plug away, man, cause I want a Maserati too. Shit.
Tactical ops gear, or if people call all the time, they're like, "Is this taco?" Because I just tac ops gear. Yeah, so TAC. So like, is this taco PS gear? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, taco. So just remember taco PS gear. So it's pretty much on eBay now. I took down my web. I'm redoing my website, so it's only on eBay. So right now, but
Okay.
yeah, I'll be back up and running.
Okay, perfect. And please stay tuned because I'm going to have, she doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to have Miss Ann step on. We're going to have a whole like HGTV type thing.
Oh
We're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
have something for the ladies. We going to organize your life, people, because men, y'all sloppy. Y'all see how organized Step is back there? All OCD-ish.
Look
Where's
at the
your
bed.
plaque at, Step? Where's your plaque?
Which one?
This one.
I don't have it yet.
Oh, you don't get it yet? Okay. When you get it, you should get it tattooed on your back.
Oh, I'm gonna get one on my backside for sure, with some names on it, with a big some lips. Tell them to kiss it.
My man, I appreciate you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Real Time with Prince Blue. I will tweet out the podcast when it will be available. I will make sure everybody gets it so they can listen to it if you missed it.
Well,
Make
follow me
sure
on or make sure everybody, since the department is so hard on my TikTok, make sure you follow me at TOG4280 on TikTok if you have it, or Instagram.
That's right. His TikToks are I can't edit. So I'll probably be naked in one thing and then naked in the next one because I can't edit. So that's why I don't do no TikToks. So I'm not on TikTok, but you'll find me on Twitter at Real Prince Blue. You'll find me on Instagram at Real Prince Blue, and you'll find me on Facebook, just Prince Blue. Thank you guys. I'm out. Make sure you go and check out All Step Surplus. So make sure you're ready for the zombie attack. Get
Yep.
all your flashlights and triple D batteries and all that other good stuff. Everybody, I'm gone. Enjoy yourself. Be safe and be good. And as always, stay real. All right, y'all.